Welcome to Hockey Night in New York, where Islanders hockey always reigns supreme. Whether you were raised at the barn in Uniondale or born in the stable at Belmont, Hockey Night in New York is your home for all things Isles. Now, let's drop the puck and get this party started.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is Hockey Night in New York. Welcome to the program, everyone. It is Sunday, November 27th, 2022. Coming at you live from Florida Media in Rockville Center. Another wonderful show here coming up for you on Hockey Night in New York. I'm joined by Chris Botta. My name is Sean Cuthbert. And join us tonight on the show from Bleacher Report and the Too Many Men podcast, Sara Civian. Looking forward to having her on the show. Great stuff. Chris Botta, how are you?
I'm doing great. It just hit me now that I don't think I'm ever going to get used to being on camera and this setup. So
You'll be fine.
I think 3 months from now I'll be feeling the same way. But one of these days.
All right, you're doing. So how's your Thanksgiving?
Everything was great. How about you guys? Good?
Yeah,
Had
also
a nice
good.
time?
Everything's good. It was a nice little family time. So here we are after a 4-game winning streak for the New York Islanders.
I don't even know how to react, right? It's probably been a while even for you to do a show like this with 4 for 4.
Yeah,
in 8-point week. Doing a show after that, it's just been fantastic. It all started with the Toronto game, which Toronto coughed up.
Yes.
Goalie coughed up.
Yes. And
blew it in overtime in spectacular fashion.
Yeah, and we're going to get into all that. But first, I want to remind you all that we are proud to be presented by Blue Line Deli and Bagels, located at 719 West Jericho Turnpike in Huntington. New location, 217 Carlton Avenue in East Islip. And, of course, UBS Arena Belmont. Also very happy to be sponsored by Lost Farmer Brewing Company, located at 63A 2nd Street in Mineola. Check them out. We got the Stable Shaker here. We got the Top Gun IPA. We're having a good time here. And with that out of the way, let's talk about that 4-game winning streak.
Yeah, let's do it.
So they go into Toronto, and they come out with 2 points that they had absolutely no business coming home with.
The thing that was amazing to me, Sean, was that Toronto in the third period, until the goalie coughed it up to Josh Bailey, who did what he does, and great patience to score the game tire. But Toronto actually played a really good protect the lead period. As the minutes went on, I was thinking, oh, this feels like a little bit of a different Maple Leaf team. It's a 2-1 game. They're keeping it tight. The Islanders didn't really have a lot of chances, quality chances. And then just in a moment, a couple of minutes between the goalie giving it away, and then the Maple Leafs were checked out in that overtime. It was they showed Keefe on the bench. He was like banging his head against the glass. Matthews, Marner, Tavares, they were all out of it. So it looked like the Islanders were going to win. Beauvillier, of course, with the goal, of course.
Right.
And then that just propels them to the week. We talked about on the show last week about this 10 games over 500 mark. Mm-hmm. That's the new 500 in the current NHL. You get those points in the bank. Another thing we've talked about a lot early in the season. And big if, but with 3 games also winnable on the horizon, the next 3, against not high quality opponents, 2 at home. If they were to take all 3, big if, they would be 10 games over 500, and that would be – it's already a pretty astonishing season, the narrative, the way it's gone on so far, but that would really be something to possibly be sitting here around the next time we do a show, and then being 10 over NHL 500.
Yeah, that would be nice. Let's take it one game at a time. But I mean, you can't help but get excited and look at the schedule and say, hey, they've had some tough games in the past. Now they got some teams that you expect them to beat because of how they've established themselves so far in the season. So we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to what's on tap. But it's funny you mentioned Beauvillier and Bailey and just them being the heroes in that game after basically spending some time on this show talking about how they need to pick it up. Bailey obviously being a healthy scratch for a couple of games. Beauvillier kind of quieting down and Josh Bailey was like a repeat of that goal that he had against Pittsburgh in the playoffs not too long ago with the goalie giveaway. And just a beautiful shot from Beauvillier to get the winner, and he ends up getting a goal later on in the week too. So, maybe this is one of those moments now for Anthony Beauvillier where he's, on the upswing of his inconsistency.
And it could be just, different heroes each night, right? Like that was their night. Parise had a good Saturday night.
Yeah.
Wahlstrom's had his nights, it seems like every 5 games or so.
Right.
And then you don't hear from them as much. The key here is that the Islanders, they're not blowing anybody out. They're just taking care of business. And if you look at this week, Toronto, Columbus, Philadelphia, games they should win. None of them were easy by any stretch, but they got the win. Another thing we've talked about is this isn't about keeping score as to quality wins or how good they might look. It's about getting those 2 points, and they did it all 4 games this week. Can they do it again?
Well, Chris, I mean, you mentioned that, and how many times, when the Islanders would go up against a team that maybe you say the Islanders deserve to win and they lose, and then the cliche comes out, well, good teams find a way to win. And that's what the Islanders are doing these days. And that's, is it finally time, and I want to ask Sara Civian about this and talk to her about it, is it, we're 23 games in now, is this finally a team? Are they for real? Are they finally, kind of showing us who they are? We keep asking this question every week.
Yeah, there's 2 ways to answer that. Are they for real as a regular season 10 or 15 or 18 games over 500 team? Yes. Are they for real as a playoff contender? In terms of what happens in the playoffs, is this a team capable of winning a couple of rounds? Well, we know they have the goaltending for it, but that I'm not too sure we have the answer for. The good news here is a big part of this was the coaching change and what was going to be the impact. And if they got off to a slow start, that could really lead to problems, perhaps mentally wear on them, question their confidence, fan base, everything. But that's in the past. They will have some bumps along the road, I would suspect. They're not that good. They're not that talented. So we can't get too crazy about it. But they are beating the teams they're supposed to. The Philly game was just perfect. I mean, you got to remember, you're playing a Philadelphia team that is thin as all heck. They were to begin with. Now they have injuries. And I think the coach Tortorella is handling them properly. He's not killing them. He knows where they are. They're probably going to be in the Bedard sweepstakes, and that would be great for the Flyers. Something, if you're an Islander fan, you'd want to root against. But 2-2 going into the third, but they get the late goal in the second to tie it up, and you go into that wondering, well, no, they took care of business early in the third. They didn't sweat it out. They got to them early. These are good signs. You would think the same thing will happen when they play them in Philly. In the end, the talent wins out, but you have to meet their work ethic. And the Flyers are going to go into the next one at home thinking we have to end the streak. They are desperate. The Islanders currently are not. The fact that the Islanders came out of that home game Saturday at UBS with a win, send the home team fans happy, all really, really good signs.
Yeah, and it was an entertaining one, too. You mentioned earlier Sorokin's name. Just wanted to also bring up that in that 3-0 shutout against the Oilers, career high, 49 saves.
You didn't even mention the Oilers game yet, which is amazing. That's the little quiet game.
3-goal second period.
Yeah, key saves when he needed to, a couple of spectacular ones. I know the coaches and the goalie will even humbly say, the team did a good job of keeping him to the outside. It wasn't 40, was it 49? Great shots.
Agreed.
But that said, man, this guy is he's special. And I know I tweeted about it. It was an original thought, but this isn't no longer a Vezina consideration, but this is a Hart Trophy consideration. When you look at all the press and all the votes that Igor Shesterkin got last year at the Rangers for the Hart Trophy, coming in third, getting something like 27 first-place votes, 49-ish second-place votes, if I can remember. Sorokin means every bit as much to the Islanders, this year's Islanders, as Shesterkin did to last year's Rangers.
No, there's no doubt about it. He's been absolutely tremendous. I mean, he's been the team's MVP to this point. I think that's easy to say. Yeah. So moving on from that, and you talk about the goals in that game, JGP with a power play goal and a shorty. So he carries over from, we talked about him last week. He was mentioned the hero of the week. He has another great week. So it looks like he's developed some consistency here. So that's great to see. You talk about going into Columbus. They established that 2-0 lead. They give up 2 on what you might consider a questionable 5-on-3 situation.
Strange one, yeah.
Yeah, 2 quick power play goals against, but you know what? They reel it in. Brock Nelson, who has been clutch all season, he gets the game winner and another victory for the team.
And another example of taking advantage, finally, of the weaker team cracking. Columbus was hanging in there 2-2, And
Right.
then I don't know who it was on Columbus, but just careless in his own zone, trying to rush out of it, trying to play it off the boards, but not flying the zone, as I'm sure the coach yelled at him for. And just like Bailey took advantage of the Toronto goalie, Nelson did it on Friday night in Columbus. And these are signature. Can we call them now Lane Lambert wins? I mean, these are 3-2 nail biters, taking care of business. Third time I've probably said that in 10 minutes already, but that's okay. This is about getting those points in the bank, and they're doing a good job of it. And the reason why I keep on bringing up this coming week is it's a Toronto, good team. Edmonton, good team. Now,
Right.
These three teams coming up, Chicago at home, Nashville at home, Philadelphia on the road. These are the games that the Islanders have been winning all season. Let's see if they can keep it going.
We will. So let's just wrap on the Philly game here. Obviously, there was some extracurriculars in that one outside of just the scoring.
What's your take on the game?
Well, look, it was certainly entertaining. I'll start with that. But
You were there?
I was not.
Okay.
I was not. But I did get to see it, and that was a tale of two different teams. You mentioned a little bit before where the Islanders clearly showed to be the better team. Philly played them tough, and they obviously got a little upset towards the latter part of the game. Romanov had that great hip check, nice clean check. Flyers take exception to it. You have a little bedlam there on the ice, and Oliver Wahlstrom answers the bell with Tony DeAngelo coming after him, and I don't think that Tony was expecting it to go that way.
It's always funny when you see guys who they think I'm taking on a finesse forward. I see him; he skates fairly well, but
Right.
he can shoot the puck, but he probably isn't a fighter. But Wahlstrom's proven himself to be he can take care of himself
More than once. He mentioned that he did a little MMA training with Matt Martin in the offseason, so perhaps that helped. But yeah, he made pretty quick work of Tony DeAngelo, and he probably regretted making that decision.
If I could just put in a little word of caution, so we don't come off as I won't come off as like a backseat driver or a Monday morning quarterback, whatever the hockey equivalent is. This is the only guy on the team who could really shoot the puck. He scored a goal the other day. It was the kind of goal.
Brock Nelson could shoot the puck.
He could. The goal that Wahlstrom got the other night was a kind of goal that we don't see.
The one to open the scoring against Columbus.
Yes.
Okay.
So I don't think you want to be messing with these too much.
Understood. You want him on the ice and not in the box. Well, I think as an extension to that, and this is something we wanted to talk about.
I don't want him hurting his hands.
Hitting the Islanders need those hands to be ripping off shots. No, I agree with you there. And we'll pick it up. But, folks, we're going to take a break because Sara Civian of Bleacher Report is going to join us. So I want to thank you all for tuning in to Hockey Night New York here at twitch.tv/HockeyNightNY. And, of course, your favorite podcast providers. We will be right back.
I don't want to hear it. It's over. I can't believe they fell short again.
Yeah, but they played so well. They made it to the semifinals 2 years in a row.
The semifinals aren't the cup. God damn it, I hate those Lightning.
They'll get another shot at it next year.
I don't even want to talk about it anymore, all right? They lost, okay? Let me just sit here and enjoy the one thing that makes me a little bit happy. This fresh, delicious, tasty, meaty, turkey-filled Blue Line Combo. I eat 3 every day to help keep me strong.
Hey, Donnie, can I have one of those?
Coming right up. Talk about a blast from the Blue Line.
Blue Line Deli and Bagels. Our goal is to make you a hero.
Miss the days of mixtapes and arcades? Love the taste of a bold IPA or maybe an ice-cold lager? There's a place where all of those magical things come together. Lost Farmer Brewing Company. At 63A East 2nd Street in the heart of Mineola, Lost Farmer combines a love of the 80s and a passion for quality beer to create brews that can only be described as gnarly, radical, and totally tubular. The retro vibe of the tasting bar will amp up your nostalgia while the blend of both local and exotic ingredients amp up your taste buds. Beer not your thing? Crack open a can of cider or sip a Chardonnay on the extended patio. Order up from the snack menu. You can even bring your own. If you're more of a homebody, pick up a growler to go or order online at lostfarmerbrewing.com. And for all of Long Island's hockey fans, Lost Farmer created the delicious Stable Shaker American Lager to celebrate the newly built UBS Arena at Belmont Park. Whether you're at the stable for a hockey game, concert, or a comedy show, you can find Stable Shaker by can and draft around the arena. So raise a cup to the next cup with Lost Farmer Brewery, the future of Long Island craft beer.
Thanks for giving some time to our sponsors. Ready to talk more Isles? The train rolls on right here on Hockey Night in New York.
Welcome back to Hockey Night in New York. Chris Botta here with Sean Cuthbert and our guest from Bleacher Report and the awesome Too Many Men podcast is Sara Civian. How are you, Sara? It's Chris.
I'm fantastic now, Chris. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for doing this. How's life? You're back home. Life is good. You've made the move after some time in Carolina?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, I was just at the Canes-Bruins game, and I was kind of sad, but it is what it is. Sometimes it's just kind of time to move on. I missed my family. It's been great having some time here, and the Bruins are doing so well that it was kind of a good career move, too.
Oh, good. I'm really, really happy for you. You did a great job on the Canes, and I know you are at Bleacher Report and the podcast, and more to come from you. So we're not going to put all this pressure on you to speak for the entire national media, Sara, but I did want to have you on because we're a quarter into the Islanders season, or the NHL season, and they're doing well. And we kind of believe here, but, I'll be honest, we live on Long Island. I worked for the team for 20 years. Sean's sitting here in kind of Islanders gear and stuff.
A little bit.
So we could be blinded. So I wanted your Sara Civian take on the New York Islanders under Lane Lambert. And, do you believe?
You know what? I think Islanders fans will be happy with me for once. I actually love them this year. I'm kind of shocked at the high scoring, especially without Barzal's goals early there. I love Lane Lambert, honestly, too. I think that's a great promotion there, and it's good to see that paying off.
Good. And Ilya Sorokin, I don't think he's a secret anymore. Would you agree? I mean, where do you rank him in the NHL among the goalies? Igor Shesterkin got Hart Trophy consideration, came in third last year. Does Ilya Sorokin deserve it? Granted, it's early on. What do you think, Sara?
Yeah, I'm going top 5 at least this year, maybe top 3. We'll see. Goaltending can be so fickle, so we'll see. But obviously, I'm loving what I'm seeing right now, especially I think he's done a really good job despite, the Islanders defense is pretty good, but not the best in the league for me. So I feel like that kind of goes to show how good he's been.
Yeah, he proved it in the Edmonton series. And back to Lane Lambert, it was certainly a controversial decision, the firing of Barry Trotz. I was shocked. I definitely would like to get your reaction. But why you think it is working with Lane Lambert?
Well, it's interesting with Trotz because, some of his comments have made it seem like maybe he didn't really want it, and now he's not a head coach anywhere, right? So it's kind of just I think maybe he didn't want to. I'm completely speculating, but he might want to do management or something, I think. And I think it goes to show Lambert was in his system and got promoted. So you don't really see that every day either. So it goes to show that it's kind of the same mentality to a degree and just kind of a fresher voice maybe.
For sure, Sara. Sean here. So to kind of piggyback off of that, Lou Lamoriello is kind of looking pretty smart these days, isn't he? Going from, firing Barry Trotz, he brings in Lane Lambert. It's working out very nicely now. He got a lot of slack for pretty much standing pat over the summer. He only really brings in Romanov as an add to this team where everybody, including myself, is talking about how much scoring that they've needed. And you mentioned at the top here that they've been scoring goals. So is Lou looking smart, or does he still have to make some moves here to improve this team?
You know what? I'll eat my crow on that. I was kind of furious with him because I thought the Islanders had potential, but they needed to do something. But I feel like sometimes it's a lesson, right? We get so wrapped up in the team needs to do something, even though the thing that they could do that's available to them might not be the best option. Then you look at the teams that made these big splashes, and honestly, they aren't doing as well as the Islanders right now. So sometimes we need to have more patience, especially with younger groups,
Yeah, for sure. And, you want to talk about a guy like Matt Barzal. He's leading the league in assists right now. He was obviously a little slow out of the gate scoring goals. He got a little slack for that. But, this is a guy now who's playing at just over a point per game pace. Does this have potential for a breakout season for him in this more open open-minded, I suppose, open offense, Lane Lambert hockey here, where maybe he can kind of reestablish himself as a top player in this league now that his numbers might, suit the part?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if this is a hot take, but I mean, everybody's been wanting him to work on his two-way game and like add more dynamic aspects to his game. So I feel like we shouldn't have ever, not that anybody was panicking, but I don't know. I wrote a few weeks ago, like, don't worry about Barzal's lack of goals. I think he's doing exactly what he needs to do and the goals will come, right? Like, I think the assists have been huge and just kind of the Islanders haven't had any trouble scoring. So there you have it. I feel like maybe this year he's kind of learning what it really takes to be a great teammate. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. He's definitely rounded out his game some more. And just to go to the fun side of things here, you have a little fashion rankings here around the league. And I wanted to ask you about that. First and foremost, is there any criteria to this? Is there certain elements you're looking for on the fashion rankings, or you're kind of just looking around at each team and seeing what they got going on?
Well, Islanders fans kind of get on me for this, and as they should. But what people don't realize is that I have to be able to see it on social media. And the Islanders' social media doesn't post them, so I'll have to go out. Yeah. I wish they posted more, but the Maple Leafs finally started posting, so now I finally have them in the rankings. But it's kind of like there's only so much I can do if I'm not physically there, and there's no pictures. But I do look for, I don't know, the trends of the time and adding your own personal flair. Like you've got Laine and Pastrnak. They're both really good at incorporating some of the trends and the big brands of the time, but also Pasternak's little hats and Laine's toques and his little accessories are always standouts to me.
Are the Islanders, are there other teams that also don't do some postings of the fits of the guys walking in? I mean, this has become pretty prevalent throughout sports, collegiately as well, but are there other NHL teams, do you know, who don't do it, who you're not able to rank?
Yeah, it's interesting because some of the older, like you think about Lou and you're like, oh, it makes sense they wouldn't post. It's like Red Wings just recently started. They used to just do all black and white, which is interesting. And then the Maple Leafs just started this year too. Last year they weren't doing anything, which was a bummer because of Matthews and Nylander. Obviously they're two of the best dressed guys. So it's an interesting balance. Some people do it like a little too much, I think. And you got to strike. I mean, I don't mind, but I'm sure it's like kind of overkill, but it's interesting. Most teams are doing it these days.
Yeah, it always goes to, like, when teams are winning, it's never an issue. If a team's, like, I don't know, like if the Canucks do it regularly, and then when you lose, no matter how great the guys might look, it never comes off looking good, right?
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. It shouldn't be your job to have to track down teams, in my opinion. That's me saying it. But if Islander fans, so, like, I get the sense from things I've seen that fans have shared, I see on Twitter and Instagram, for example, that Matthew Barzal happens to be a sharp guy, seems to be a sharp dresser, and there are others as well. If do you take write-in candidates? Like if fans were to share them with you and put them up for, right? Because
please, Islanders. Yes, and that would be better because there's like certain copyright things too with Instagram where like if it's on Instagram, I can't use it. I can only use Twitter. So if they were to tweet the photo at me, I can even use their own tweet. So that works out. But definitely, I love when it's so fun when fans get involved, and also when the teams, like I've seen Zadorov on the Flames broadcast just calling me out by name and just like, hey, like, look at this outfit. I'm like, okay, like it's kind of funny how they're all getting involved, and I love when my attention gets drawn to somebody when they call me out.
Oh, that's fantastic. I mean, that's a thing that you've carved out on your own. I know there have been followers since, or people who have imitated since, but congratulations on that. So there's the message for Islander fans. Please heed this call that if you see those shots, I saw Barzal, it looked like a wedding or engagement party this summer, or going into a game, or fan shots, somehow get them to Sara Civian. Sara, let's go back to hockey to wrap up. In the Eastern Conference, I think we've seen enough, perhaps, of some of the top teams that look like they're locks for playoffs, and also some of the teams like the Flyers, perhaps Columbus, who look like locks to not make it. I was wondering your thoughts on where the East stacks up right now.
Yeah, I mean, around the league, it's been a really weird season with kind of unexpected streaks, right? I do think the Devils, that is one of my biggest surprises of the season, obviously. I think they're going to obviously make the playoffs. The Bruins, I mean, I get a up close and personal look at them, and they just like are finding all these different ways to win when they were kind of counted out too. I think the Islanders will make it, maybe a wild card spot. I'm kind of confused about the Rangers. I'd like to get your opinion on them. I think they're showing a little mental weakness to me.
Yeah, there's definitely been – the Metro's been very interesting. I mean, not a lot of people expected the Islanders to be where they are right now, holding on to some home ice in the second-place spot. Obviously, nobody bet on the Devils except for maybe 5 or 6 Devil fans, right?
Yeah.
And then you look at what's happening with Washington. They're heading towards the bottom, and Pittsburgh's only kind of picked it up recently. They've started rattling off a couple of wins. So it's going to be interesting to see how it shakes out, especially if there is a little bit of the change in the guard with teams like Washington and maybe Pittsburgh struggling a little bit. And you talk about the Rangers. I think they're a team that maybe is just struggling a little bit more than we expected now, but I think they're going to get it together. And I just think they have too good of a team, especially with Sorokin back there, and I think they'll get it together. But I'm certainly not complaining about their struggles, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of evident, but the Red Wings are another kind of pleasant surprise to me. 11-5-4.
Yes, and just to look at these teams now, you have Detroit coming up now. They're playing a little bit better, but Columbus, right? Johnny Gaudreau, talk about the Metro division here, and this is a guy who signs a big contract, shocks the hockey world. And you want to talk about a team that's struggling. They can't even get out of the basement. What do you think's happened there in Columbus that they're having such a hard time, especially after bringing in a star like that?
You know what? I think that was kind of not destined to fail. That's dramatic, but I think they're rebuilding and they need a few more years regardless. And I think people got their hopes up way too much. And maybe I'll pat Lou on the back for not signing him, but it just seems like kind of a big contract for a guy who's always needed a supporting cast. And like, that's no shade to Johnny, but I do think he isn't up there with like the elite players for me. I think he's one of the best in the league, but not the best of the best. And we're kind of treating him like he was. So I think, again, sometimes it's good to really think these things through and be brave enough to not do something just to do it and sign him,
Right on, for sure. And then the last one I'll leave you with, you mentioned the Devils. They are such a big surprise. Is this a team that, despite their youth and I suppose a little bit of green around that team and how we didn't expect them, do you think this is a pace? I mean, not necessarily winning, 20 out of their first 25 games, but do you think this is something they can keep up and actually, contend for the division and maybe home ice in the Metro?
Yeah, I think there comes a time in every young team's life where they get it together and become that team that like everybody was hoping they would be. And I think they're going to have struggles. It's a long season for sure, but I do think you got to look at the streaks and they can look back on this and say, you know what, we have this huge streak before. We know we're good. We can draw on that confidence. And then you got Jack Hughes with his first hat trick. It's like all these milestones are happening for the younger players that have needed to happen. And then you got like Dougie Hamilton, and the goaltending's actually working out, kind of going in a different direction. So I think a lot of pieces are coming together at the right time, and it's building confidence there.
Sara, thanks so much for this. You were amazing last year on my media podcast telling us your story. I know you're an inspiration to a lot of people, and congratulations on being back home and with Bleacher Report and the Too Many Men podcast, which is doing incredibly well and is a great listen. I really, really appreciate you and your talents and your creativity. Thanks for doing this tonight, Sara.
It's always a pleasure. Thanks so much.
Thanks, buddy.
Sara,
see you down
thanks
the road.
a lot. Have a great night.
Yeah, of course.
All right, folks, that was Sara Civian of the Bleacher Report and the Too Many Men podcast. Great stuff. So the Devils are for real. And I guess the Islanders are too, a little bit.
Yeah, they're in a different, 40 games from now, where will the Devils and the Islanders be? I don't think anybody can say that for sure. I don't think anybody could say the Devils will definitely be over the Islanders.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing would surprise me right now. I think there's still questions yet there. They've done enough to be, in the case of the Devils, to have a playoff spot, almost all but wrapped up.
Mm-hmm.
In the case of the Islanders, have shown enough with the goalies. Both goalies, by the way, credit to Varlamov for being ready when he's been called.
Yeah.
So listen, one thing I want to talk about here, it came up on the way here. it seems like when I check Twitter, and these are things that are trending that I would be interested in. This isn't worldwide, okay? This isn't Ronaldo and Messi. But Barry Trotz is always freaking trending. And it's because every time a team like the Rangers loses a game like they did last night, all of a sudden Ranger fans are saying they should get Trotz, and then a lot of Ranger fans are saying no, he's the wrong guy for them. I understand why some would say that. I don't think Barry Trotz is the wrong guy for any team. I don't want to hear about talent and all that.
Sure,
but I'm fascinated by the fact that Barry has started about like 6 weeks ago to come out and do some interviews, some nationwide podcasts, an interview with Pierre LeBrun. He's thrown himself out there. I'm a huge fan of him on a personal level. I think it looks sometimes a little distasteful. I would suggest if I was his representative to maybe go away for a while. I think just about every coach in this league, he's out there and it looks like he's waiting for he's waiting for somebody to get fired to take over. That's the optics. With a lot of people in the business. Go ahead, challenge me, fight me on that.
I will, and because I think that if he wanted a job, he would have had it already. I think that going into the season, he would have taken a job already.
Okay, but let me ask you this: when the Islanders relieved him of his duty, he didn't say shit.
Right,
he disappeared, and to this day, he still hasn't. He's had a pleasant thing to say. Oh, I enjoyed working for Lou. I learned from him. Lewis said they're still in touch. All that. But he never said anything. And now he's out there. And by the way, I don't think he's out there campaigning.
Yeah, I don't think he doesn't need to sell himself.
What I'm saying is I don't think he knows that it's not a great look. There's all these other coaches who are out there. He wouldn't want that if he was on the other side of it. I think there's just something to be said. He's going to get a job. I think his plan all along has been to take the best job he can get in the summer of 2023. Ideally, as Sara referenced, he wants to cook. He wants to shop for some of the groceries in addition to cook. It's an old Bill Parcells thing I referenced months ago about not only coaching but having some player personnel. He might not ever get that. It's a great chance some teams are going to tell him, you're a coach and you're a coach only. You don't get to be GM or player personnel.
Well, it worked out great for Milbury.
But, a long time ago. And
I was being facetious, Chris. Yeah, I was not serious.
It's interesting to me that he's putting himself out there, and I'm sure there's just coaches who are just tired of hearing his name come up, and it's a hard enough job. And I think within the coaching fraternity, there's a lot of love and respect for each other for the most part. And I'm not saying he's out there just looking to jump on a job. I'm just saying I'm surprised he hasn't gone away again, because he didn't do the appropriate round of interviews would have been to the Islanders media, like Kevin, like Andrew, after he was let go. That is absolute protocol. That eventually, when the guy has time to get over it, to think about what he wants to say, and he never did that. And instead, he's doing these somewhat protected, safe interviews where he talks about what he wants to do going forward. It's interesting.
I think if we learned anything from him coaching the New York Islanders, is the man likes to talk.
Yes,
the man is willing to talk, and I don't think there's anything wrong with him, having an interview here or there in the media. I certainly don't think he's campaigning. He doesn't have to. I still think he's the best coach not coaching in the NHL. He was the best coach coaching in the NHL when he was coaching the New York Islanders, as far as I'm concerned. So I think, who knows the absolute truth, but maybe he wasn't ready to take a job yet. Maybe the right job wasn't available over the summer. I don't know if his mind has changed or anything like that, but if and when he's ready to coach, somebody will be waiting for him with essentially a blank check. So I think he'll get that job if and when he wants it, or maybe just a managerial job, or who knows, maybe he's prepping himself to get into, get behind the broadcast booth or something like that. Maybe we'll see him on ESPN Plus one of these days. We don't know.
It was we happened to have Andrew Gross and Kevin Curzon back-to-back weeks, which I think was just a coincidence, but it was interesting to hear them talk about. I tried to say nice things about Lane and his media, and both of them got almost wistful for the days of Barry and said, I thought that was interesting.
Right. He was a quotable man.
I don't see Barry Trotz getting a GM job. I just don't. And if I'm the owner of a team, it's like you are a
You want him
great
to coach. Yeah.
I want him to coach. So
Right.
I appreciate him wanting to be the GM. GMs tend to not get fired, using the Mike Milbury example.
There you go.
So
the Garth Snow example.
Yeah, but anyway, it's all very the Garth Snow. Yeah, we got two of them. So anyway, it's an interesting thing to me. Last thing to put a little bit of a bow on Trotz and Lamoriello through these interviews that Barry's given, through some of the stuff that Lou has said to when he did the interview in Nashville with Kevin and Andrew and anyone else that might have been interviewing him. It seems like the biggest takeaway here is that Lou Lamoriello decided and may have even said to Barry, this is a classic. I don't have the ability to change out 12 players. This crew is coming back, or most of it's coming back. And it's a cliche. You can't fire all the players. You can't trade all the players.
Sure.
You fire the coach.
Sure.
And as good as this coach was, as epically good as this coach was, that was the decision to turn the page on last year's bad year.
Right.
And even though I didn't like it at the time, and there's no reason to ever think that it was a good idea, if you look at the results right now with this current Islanders season, Lou has not gotten that wrong. If they go really far in the playoffs, I'll even go so far as to say he really got that right, and way to go, Lamoriello, you did it again. But that's where things stand now. It just is, I think he needed to turn the page on last season, was concerned about bringing back everybody, including the lead voice, who is a big voice and a constant voice and a gregarious voice. And okay, because we're sitting here at 7 games over 500, 23 games into the season.
Exactly. Look at Lou and Lane right now, and they're coming out rosy at the moment. Again, there's still plenty of games to go, but good for them. And you know what? Maybe there just is something to Lou Lamoriello. Maybe he does know a thing or two about GM and a hockey team.
Sorry, I think after the Sara interview, I kind of took you on a plan that's not on the index.
We're all good, because I'm gonna reel it back in right now. Don't worry about it. So we were talking about Oliver Wahlstrom before we broke for Sara. So let's expand on that just a little bit. We talked about how we want to keep his hands protected. I understand that, but it also is a good sign that he's willing to stick up for his teammates, or just when he's literally forced into fighting somebody like D'Angelo did. He had no choice in that matter. But it's nice to see that he's willing to stick up for his guys. And the players were interviewed after the game, and they showed appreciation for the fact that Wally was able to take care of himself and handle himself, and they said that provided a spark to the team. So you look at that, and while he's not the guy you necessarily want being involved in that all the time, it's nice to know that he's ready and willing to stick up for his teammates when the time comes. But the real question I wanted to ask you and just kind of discuss here is that he's currently averaging 12 minutes on the dot per game. Yeah, and he's got, I looked at it before, he's basically averaging about half a point per game. He's pretty much on that trajectory. So he's doing pretty well with a limited amount of ice time. So is this a guy who deserves a little more? You look at the goal that he scored that we just talked about a little bit here. You talk about the shot that he has. Is he still, I don't know if unfairly is the proper word, but is it still, a little too slow going from the way Barry Trotz handled him and now Lane Lambert? Is this a guy who they need to kind of allow to flourish a little bit more, since he keeps kind of showing that when he is on the ice, good things are happening?
I guess I would throw it back with a question to you. Like, it could be situational. A lot of these games, most of them have been close.
Sure.
And so that could impact it, right?
Sure, absolutely.
Like, he's not one of the 9 that he's going to roll out there all the time.
And he's not one of the 4 going on the PK.
So
right.
that's also an issue too. So listen, the 12 minutes sound low.
Right.
It is low. You know how this works, right? If they're at 500 or a couple of games below 500, it's a major talking point that I can't believe this guy with all this offensive ability.
Right.
But right now, while you're winning, I can't. Right. There isn't.
They could have beat Philly 6-2.
Yeah, I can't criticize who's starting goalie. I can't. Right now they're on a stretch, and this happens with coaches. By the way, coaches can get a hot hand too. Coaches know this too. Coaches know that that things that might work out for several weeks in a row. Wow, I can't go wrong no matter who I put out there. Then things cool off. I had a thing with Scott Gordon back when I was doing that little blog, the Point Blank thing.
Of course, yeah.
I think it was the year that I was I think it was like the official team blogger for 2 years. So anyway, the Scott year, despite the fact that the team wasn't good, they had this one stretch where they killed like 30 or 40 in a row penalties they killed.
Okay.
And I said to Scott, who was not media friendly, as Billy
No,
Jaffe
he was
knows, as a lot
not.
of people know.
Rob Garland knows.
Yeah, to this, okay. I didn't know how like public that was. It
was on the television. Everybody saw it.
Okay, cool. We should have him on someday. I think you talk about it. I said to Scott, I said, hey, would you let me in? I want to sit in the coach's office, watch you break down tape, what's working. And he's like, I'll do it. I'll do it for you, Chris. But I know the minute this goddamn story runs, we're gonna give up a goal. And of course, that's what happened. And
right.
I could even see him like flinging his arms behind the benches.
He was looking for you.
So, yeah, that's my little tale about how you can run a hot and cold hands here. There on the Wally thing.
Mm.
Every time he gets a goal, I see a fan tweet. Well, that's what now you have a coach who's taken the shackles off. I don't think he really has taken the shackles off. He's just got a couple more goals right now. So this is the education of Oliver Wahlstrom. I don't like a lot of things with this team. I don't know when it ends yet, but it's not the good. Here's the good thing: it's not a failure. Right? It's not he's not going to make it.
Right.
It's not he's in that Kiefer Bellows stage. No, he's above that. So while he's still in it and potting that big goal every once in a while and making a difference every 4 or 5 games, is that fair, unfair? I'll leave that up to you to decide. He's still a project that's he's doing okay.
Yeah, and like you said, it's hard to argue when they're winning hockey
games.
games.
And his teammates seem to really like him, too.
Yes, they do.
I get that.
They do. Well, let's talk about a new line mate of his recently, and we'll see how long this lasts. But Simon Holmstrom makes his debut, gets into 3 games this week. He gets an assist versus Columbus, a nice little chip up the boards to Matt Barzal, which led to Oliver Wahlstrom's goal in that game. So is this a kid that belongs? This is probably a little taste for him. When Palmieri comes back, he's day-to-day with an upper body injury. He probably gets sent back to Bridgeport when Palmieri's ready to go.
Possibly.
Oh. Intrigue.
From what I've seen, usual preface, not an analyst or whatever, but when I have watched him, which is closely the few times he's been out there for the NHL club, I look at him and I think, man, this is that Sergei Nemchinov.
Okay.
This is that.
Okay.
He's that Lou Lamoriello guy. Kind of wind him up, steady. Surprise you once in a while, good defensively, strong, not going to set the world on fire, but a guy you don't lose any sleep over every time you have him out there. And I would dare say that if he was to somehow put a few more games together, he might not go down.
There seems to be a theme where, whether it's players being interviewed, asked about him, Barzal had some nice thing to say, Wahlstrom had some nice thing to say, playing on the same line with him, and even Lane Lambert, it seems like he's comfortable, even though he's just getting his feet wet here. It looks like, I know Stefan Rosner put a piece out talking about him, saying he looks like he's been up for a while. He looks like a veteran out there. He's comfortable and he's calm and he's cool.
Yeah, couldn't he play, I'm asking you, couldn't he play on that fourth line? If he could play 10 minutes there, he's never going to be a big offensive guy. I think we could probably see that already. But, this fourth line's still not, they're okay. But should the guys need a rest? He's a guy you plug in.
At his age, sure. I think that he's at the very least pegged for a middle 6 guy at worst. I don't think they're looking at him as a fourth line guy. I mean, he was a first rounder, wasn't he?
But this is a team where Wahlstrom's playing 12 minutes.
Okay.
So him playing 10 minutes.
On the top line.
Right. I'm saying, what is time, right?
Chris, you wanted to fight here.
My point is, he's not, when I say on the fourth line, then that is a 4-minute guy, but is a 10-minute guy.
Sure.
So he's next in line to go down, but I think he's shown enough to management, to the coaching staff, that he could stay there.
And he could also, I think, because they do have that extra spot, right? After they sent, because they're not carrying 23 right now. So I guess he could if they want him to hang up there, but we'll see. I guess it depends on whether they want him to get into games if and when Palmieri comes back.
Yeah, he'd be here to play at least 2 out of 3, not to do the Robin Salo thing.
Okay, so we'll see where the story goes on Wahlstrom. And then a little note here: Cal Clutterbuck, he gets the lead in hits now. He broke the record ever since they started tracking him in what was it, 2005, 2006. So something to tip your hat to. He likes to throw the body around.
The record is great. The hit stat is funny to me because when fans want to crap on a team having a lot of hits, what do they say?
You tell me.
It means you don't have the puck.
Oh, yes, of course.
Right?
Of course.
So, and I've seen Islander fans, once the Islanders got better, I've seen them say that at other teams. Like Ryan Reeves, for example. Oh, great, Reeves had 8 because he didn't have the puck.
Right.
So, but
you can never win.
Yeah.
You can never win.
That said, because I think I've said this now a few times, Cal Clutterbuck has been a really, really good New York Islander.
Oh, absolutely.
And nobody's waiting for me. They don't need me to say that.
Sure.
Right? But, let's not lose sight of the fact no matter where it goes from here, in terms of the rest of his contract, whether he continues to play a regular shift, if it ended tomorrow for him, right, he has had an unbelievable career. Trade was a unique one. We don't have to relive that.
Right, of course.
You would do it because now with the complete body of work, and that's even not a criticism. Nita Ryder, who's bounced around, is a very good player. I would have liked to see him here come back again sometime. Maybe that happens. But Clutterbuck's been good. Just the hits thing is amazing to me. And when they put in the hit stat, it wasn't good for PR people because I'll just give you one example.
Okay.
I had a guy come up to me. I definitely can't name him. They were all bigger than me. Sorry. Okay, he was a big guy.
Fair enough.
I had a guy come up to me after a game, brandishing the sheet. I don't know if they still print them out now, but he had the print out.
Okay.
Game's over. And he's like, we got to talk. And this is somebody who didn't score a lot, whatever. And he pulls me into a side room. And he says, Bots, I'm out there busting my fucking ass for every minute I get. Every shift I get. I know where I came from. I know where I've played. I know where I was drafted. I know. And I'm like, where is this going other than me, like, perhaps being injured? and I was like, I hear you. What's up? He's like, how can they sit up there in the press box, which is where they were at the time, and then I come in and see a 0 next to hits for me when I could tell you, and I'll show you the tape. And blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I'm so afraid I'm gonna say the guy's name by accident. I was just like, buddy, I'm sorry, and I hear you, and I'll talk to the guys, and and we rectified it. But for the guys who maybe it's less of a thing now. I don't know.
Yeah.
My brethren in that business can talk about it now, but it's things like that, giveaways, takeaways, hits for the guys who aren't getting 40 points.
Yeah, they need something to hang their hat on.
They, and I will say, especially for the hitter guys now, I don't think anybody's missing Clutterbucks or Sezikis's or Matt's hits, but it could be a problem, and they are easy to miss. So I don't blame the guy for having the pride to come to me and say, please, you got to take a look at this.
It's just a shame that you were the guy you had to go to. Stop pointing the finger at.
There were times where that was just part of the job, and that's okay.
All right, good stuff. All right, so we talked about it a little bit, but let's very quickly go through what's on tap. So we bring that segment up real quick. So here we go. A little break for the Islanders. Not 4 games this week, only 3. They got a couple of days off. But they're going to Philly Tuesday for a potential round 2 of what happened the other night. You think we're going to see some more fists thrown or what?
Yeah, I think the Islanders will need to be ready for that, and they will be. They can handle themselves.
Does Ross Johnston dress?
I would say it would be a mistake if they do, because I don't think they need that.
Okay.
They need to beat them,
play their
and
game,
then
get the
just
2
hold
points.
their own. Like, I don't, the whole fighting thing. If somebody doesn't want to fight, they don't. There is still a code there. So some fighter type on the Flyers is not going to beat up on. That's very very rare.
Tempers were high on the Islanders bench. They might be looking for a little retribution.
And what would it say about those 18 guys who played Saturday if one of them sits and there's a feeling that Big Ross had to play. And I know it's a road game, so you don't have the matchup and all that stuff, but that would seem like an overreaction to me. You've won 4 in a row. You're on a roll. This is a team you should beat. And, I would hope it wouldn't come to that, because you do still have to beat them in the game, and then you handle whatever needs to be handled after that, and they have the guys to do that.
Okay, all right, I'm with you there. And then Friday, they play Nashville, a little chance of revenge after dropping the game recently against them. And then, as you mentioned, Sunday against this struggling team in Chicago, and that wraps up your week.
Yeah, I don't. That Nashville game will be the standout in terms of most interesting to me. I don't know where it goes. I do think that the fact that they lost that one there will sting with them, and
yes,
be another benchmark. Not because Nashville's like that super strong a team, but that's
they're the toughest of the three.
And it's easy to say, but they're going to need to play a lot better than they did Saturday against the Flyers when they play Nashville on Friday.
Okay, I'm with you. So, folks, that's what's on tap for the New York Islanders. Philly Tuesday, Nashville Friday, and the Chicago Blackhawks on Sunday. So now, Eddie, how we doing back there? Ready to cue up the hero of the week or what?
Yeah, we got it.
You good, bud? All right, man. Let's do it. Let's do it.
All righty.
Ladies and gentlemen, when you hear this song, that means it's time for the Hero of the Week, brought to you by the Blue Line Deli and Bagels half-price hero, which this week is The Godfather, featuring Cappy ham, Genoa salami, pepperoni, provolone, lettuce and tomato, oil and vinegar on a hero. That's a lot of ingredients, but I hear it's delicious. So, with that out of the way, Chris Botta, who is your Hero of the Week?
My Hero of the Week is Zach Parise.
Zach Parise. Tell us why.
It's now becoming. I can't look at these always as the week, but this is now an Islanders Achievement Award.
Okay,
and he continues to prove it. The question would be, what kind of start would he have this year after not having a good start, like just about everybody else on the team last year? And he is answered that, and of course, 2 goals in the win over the Flyers. 7 on the season.
Yeah, that sounds about right. He had an assist on J.G. Pajot's shorty the other night as well, when he had the power play goal and the shorthanded goal. So yeah, no, Parise has been excellent. He's been excellent. Even he was still good last year, even when he wasn't putting pucks in the net. But now he's getting rewarded for all his hard work, because he does. He goes out there every shift, and he's setting a great example for the young guys on this team, whether it's Wahlstrom or whether it's Holmstrom, whoever it is. But I think it's a great pick for the hero.
And who do you got?
Well, I was considering going with Zach, but I wanted to switch it up, and we were just talking about this guy, and I'm going to give it to Oliver Wahlstrom. I like what he showed. I like the fire that he showed coming back against D'Angelo in the fight. I like the goal that he scored against Columbus. And I do, look, I'm not going to tell Lane Lambert how to do his job, especially with the way he has the team going right now, but I wouldn't mind seeing him getting out in the ice a little bit more, maybe getting an opportunity to pot a couple more points, pot a couple more goals, and then maybe, that conversation about, the Islanders need to bring in more scoring. Maybe he can quiet that a little bit. So Oliver Wahlstrom is my hero.
Great choice. I like it. And I apologize. I should have asked for your take on him with minutes, but it worked out perfectly since he's your hero. So you answered that. You wanted Oliver to get more.
There you have it.
Parise.
Yes.
It's early, but this bears watching. He signs for basically the minimum a year ago. Yeah. And we all know he's got the huge buyout from Minnesota. He's got the money, right? Then he comes back and he does it again at pretty much at the minimum. I think with some bonuses, he can make
$750K.
Right?
Yep.
But let's be honest, that this is a discount if you look at points. Look at, right? So he's done the second year. And now the production's there. I'm not here to say he's going to get 28 goals this year, but he could get around 20 or so. He's already on. He's on pace for that. What happens if? Because it would be incredible, but I don't see him doing it a third time. This is getting way ahead of ourselves.
That's okay.
Right? But if he,
that's why we do the show.
Right, that's why we do a show. Right? We talk for 60 minutes about Islanders every week, if not more than once a week. Right?
Sure.
So, that's going to be really interesting to me, because whether it's his agent, Players Association, Zach himself, it would be really unheard of for. Let's see. Again, he has another really strong season. Is that model you talked about? Now the points are there, and then would he actually do it again? And I know some people might say, yeah, but he made $9 million a year or whatever, like that.
Right, and he's still cashing in on that.
But if you look at every sport, every professional league, including this one, that is just not the norm. The guy eventually will go where he'll say it's where he was most valued because they offered the most, as they should, as I would never suggest that anybody should consider otherwise. But like I guess what could happen is that the Islanders just might have to spend a little more on the cap to retain him next year. A great problem to have because that means he had himself a year. Another good season.
Right.
But I just don't think if he comes back a third year, well, then just rename. Sorry, Bobby Nystrom, but rename the Bob Nystrom Award after Zach Parise.
No, I'm glad
because fans need to understand. I think most of them do, but it's unheard of. A guy does not sign for the ultimate discount just because he's happy year after year after year.
Yeah, no, for sure. And the amazing thing to me is that he's doing it at 38 years old. You know, and it's so funny, like, because everybody, uses that cliche, the wrong side of 30. And that's kind of when you start, maybe wondering when a guy his production is going to start tailing off. And for some guys, it's 31. Some guys, it's 35. And Zach Parise, while he's not the Zach Parise that we know from the bulk of his career, the fact that he's still able to play at the level he is now is very impressive to me. And I think, look, going down that road that you took us on here, I mean, that's something you think about. There's going to come a point where he's not going to do it anymore. And we don't know if the cutoff is this year, next year, whatever it is. And I think he loves playing for the Islanders, the fact that he's playing for his father's team. And I think he has a very good relationship with Lou Lamoriello. I think that's pretty obvious as well. So I think if he does continue to produce and they see room for him next year, because who knows who's taking up spots next season, but I have a feeling he's not going to be like, hey, listen, Lou, I put up 22 last year. I want to see 3.5 or 4. You know what I mean? I don't think that's going to be
the
an
answer
issue.
Would be is that he gets a real nice raise. It's still below value.
Yeah.
A fun problem to have. I'm glad you mentioned JP. It just warms the heart. It's just so neat to see Parise out there. He's such history for this franchise and big goal in 75 and a beloved former Islander and just to see Zach out there is great. And it says everything about Zach that there's a couple of ways this can go. He plays for his hometown team, Minnesota, and no matter how much they paid him and all that, the decision was made that we would rather you not be on our team anymore. Right. And that can't be easy to hear. Now, sometimes guys just like, hey, it wasn't meant to be. I had a great run. I'm going to go invest. I'm going to go do TV. I'm going to do whatever. Sure. This guy decided I'm going to be part of a team that's had some struggles lately, although obviously when he joined, they were coming off, and I'm going to help make them better, and I'm going to sign for the lowest number, basically, that they could sign to. And now, so last year, I was skeptical, and you could even say cynical at times about Zach Parise. Now, there's just nothing left to say. But
he's a New York Islander.
Yeah, really, really great.
Yes, great stuff. So, folks, I want to thank you so much for tuning in here at twitch.tv/HockeyNightNY. And, of course, your favorite podcast providers. We're going to take one more quick break. When we come back, we're going to hit Questions Brewing, then we're going to wrap this thing up. We'll be right back.
New York Islanders fans, Sunday night is hockey night in New York. Whether you were raised at the barn in Uniondale or born in the stable at Belmont, tune in to Hockey Night in New York. Catch us live from Floored Media in Rockville Center, Sunday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, as we cover all things Islanders at twitch.tv/HockeyNightNY. All episodes are also available on YouTube and all your favorite podcast providers. And for all you social butterflies, you can follow at HockeyNightNY on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram for all the latest updates. Hockey Night in New York. The best night of the week for any Islanders fan.
It's time for Questions Brewing, brought to you by Lost Farmer Brewing Company.
That's right, folks. It is time for Questions Brewing. Ed, how we doing in the chat there, buddy?
It's very active.
Is that right?
It's very active.
Have they forgiven you for last week?
There's no question.
Oh, okay. Because I thought they fired you last
Consider
week.
there was no last week.
Wow.
But
okay.
Before we get started, I'd like to welcome a first-time chatter and new follower to the channel, New Wave Halifax. Welcome.
Hey, how's it going?
Very active tonight.
All right.
Thank you for joining us on
Excellent.
the program.
Love that. Love to see it. Hello, Halifax.
Yeah.
So let's start rolling them out, bud.
All right, T. Boyle wasn't here last week.
Hey,
so we'll start off
Tommy.
with a little T. Boyle. Has Wahlstrom earned his own spot on the team? And if so, who sits?
Well, it's funny you should ask, Tom, because we did talk about that just earlier, and I think we covered it. So I don't think he's earned a spot yet. Chris seems to think he might have earned himself a longer look. I wonder.
He deserves to play over Ross Johnson.
Oh yeah, I'm with you on that.
But I understand Ross Johnson doesn't play either. So
Right, and we have to wait and see how long Kyle Palmieri is going to be on the men, because sometimes day to day becomes week to week, and we don't know, and we know the veil of secrecy that they have in the New York Islanders organization. I don't think it's much more than anything to get too concerned about. But the longer Palmieri's out, I think the longer Holmstrom will be there, and I think ultimately when Palmieri comes back, if they don't want to carry Holmstrom as an extra man, like Chris was saying, they probably prefer him to be on the ice. He'll go back to Bridgeport, but by all accounts, a great little showing from him here in those 3 games.
what do you got?
All righty. Next from Trottier 19.
Hey,
Did the Islanders still add a scorer at the trade deadline if things stay the same as they are now?
Yes.
elaboration or
No, I mean, by the way, is it will they or should they? What was it?
Do they still, basically,
Yeah.
will they?
They're going to try. There's no question. That's the GM's job, is to make his team better, and by the time we get to that point, they could use some offense, and so he'll be shopping.
Yeah, if they continue on the trajectory that they're on, I would still even say if you can find a guy you can bring in to add to the scoring, you do it.
Yeah, I agree. All right, we got Coach Lambert.
What's up, Coach?
Yeah. So Lambert's system is working well in the regular season, but is this still a team that can look things down defensively? Like,
It's amazing. So it's
like two thieves that
yeah, we got the gist, I think, but it's November 27th.
He's talking about the playoffs. Are they built for the playoffs?
It's November 27th, and they're and I know they've won 4 in a row, and that colors everything. But like as recently as like November 22nd, I still saw tweets either I was getting or about Lambert not being good, and like, man,
Tough crowd.
it is.
This is Eye on the Country, Chris. You're more familiar with than anybody sitting here.
At times, yeah. I've also seen this other side where I've been critical, and then people tell me I'm too critical, or that there's an element of a fan base that just believes in anything. But like, we don't know because he hasn't coached in the playoffs.
Yes,
this is his first NHL head coaching job
for sure. But
does this system work? I don't.
But well, look, I'll say this. Coming from being the associate coach in the Barry Trotz, he knows how to coach Barry Trotz hockey. He knows how to coach playoff hockey. So if he has to modify, depending on the opponent or depending on the circumstances, it's not like Lame Lambert is now just tunnel visioned into this one method of playing, and that if that has to change, if that has to adapt, I'm sure he will. And maybe we see more elements of Barry Trotz hockey when we get to the playoffs because it has proven to be quite successful.
Let's not lose sight of the fact, and I'd say this for even when Barry was the head coach, that this is a team whose president and general manager is Lou Lamoriello. So if you look at the Devils' success and the times when they weren't so successful, they played a certain way, they were coached a certain way. The one constant has been Lou Lamoriello. If anything, the second constant has been Jacques Lemaire, who has always been Lou's guy.
That's right.
And so I'm just... They're not going to be the go.
He's still part of the organization, right?
Yes, they're
He's
not
still on the
going to be.
website.
They're not going. He will always be around, and
Fair enough.
He's always a phone call away.
Sure.
I couldn't actually tell you if he's exactly in the directory this very second. I think he is.
Okay,
but
okay.
And that's a good. That's a good thing.
Sure.
There's nothing.
Yeah.
And so this isn't. They're not going to be this. Tortorella Lightning. Go for it all the time kind of thing.
Sure.
This is still a Lou Lamoriello team. So whether that's going to work in the playoffs, you don't know. You can believe we're already talking.
I was about to say I love the spirit there. That 20 games. I guess we hit that Thanksgiving cutoff, and Coach Lambert
right in.
He's like, we're in. We're going to the playoffs.
What else? Anything?
What do you got, Edzo?
We got. I think this might be the only one I see with questions brewing here.
All right, what do you got?
And it could be early. This is the question.
Do they have to hashtag it or something?
It helps Ed find the questions.
When they put questions brewing nice big.
Right. I mean,
it's easy, it's an easy stopping point.
Like
lines of chat, of chat with a question mark at the end.
Also, we don't want to do repeats, so I'm looking carefully here.
Correct.
Sure.
We want to make sure everyone gets theirs in.
I think that was a shot at us, but
maybe maybe more particularly you, Chris.
I'll live with it. I'll live with it.
So it's early, but could you see Lanebird as candidate for Coach of the Year?
Yes, absolutely. If they continue playing the way that they're playing. Well, look, I don't know how you win it over Lindy Ruff at this point, right? If the Devils continue going on the track that they're on, but you'd have to think if the Islanders stick around essentially where they are, maybe home ice if they can't get the division, which right now isn't looking like it, but you have to at least consider. I almost said Lanebird just because it keeps coming out that way. What happened. But you have to consider Lane Lambert. Because he wasn't given a lot of credit going into the season. And it's funny because even Sara, they're still kind of hedging their bets with the Islanders. Like she said, wild card team. They're sitting in second place in the division, but everybody's being very cautious with the Islanders. We're funny enough, the Devils up. Nope, they're looking good. They're number 4 in the power rankings this week. Meanwhile, the Islanders are down number 12, and they got a couple teams that are behind them in the standings, but still ahead of them if you pay attention to that sort of thing. But getting back to the original question, I would have to think that he's a candidate if he leads this team to the playoffs. Does he win the trophy? Depends on where they end up. But he has to be considered.
I think he'll be considered.
Yeah.
But I don't think he'll be a top. The path to him for a top 3 is going to have to be a wild overachievement. By that, I would say first or second. 110 point. I just don't think him making the playoffs is going to be enough because
I agree.
There's 3 finalists, and one of them is going to be Lindy almost certainly. If Lindy doesn't get fired, if they lose 9, or who knows? This crazy.
At least
sport.
The fans came around.
Yeah,
for
this sport is just so nuts. Nothing.
Yeah.
By the way, Philly has now lost 10 in a row for the 3rd time in a row. 3 weeks ago, the Buffalo Sabres. Everybody was talking about they're finally back.
Every year,
which makes us now the 5th year that everybody said the Sabres were back, and now they're not. And who knows? Maybe they turn it around.
Poor Buffalo.
So I just don't know if Lane will stand out as a top 3 guy. It'll probably depend on what happens with some other teams, like what happens out west. Is there that surprise team that comes out of nowhere, does great, and but he's in the consideration right now. He's won 4 in a row.
He's won 4 in a
got
row.
All the answers.
Yeah, he did 5 earlier. So let's see how long this streak goes. Ed, do you have anything else for us?
No, everyone's studied up this week. No questions.
Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah,
Love
but
it.
everyone does want to know. When are we getting Lou on the podcast?
Lou. We're getting Lou on the podcast.
Yeah.
When
we can't do players, so everyone wants
Lou.
Lou.
Does any podcast.
Right.
When he does an interview that's not with Pierre LeBrun or with the beat writers, as he should. Yeah, I know that won't happen, but that's okay.
It'll be the year 2045. He'll be retired, and he'll finally come around to doing it.
Well, there you have it, folks.
All right, there you have it. Questions brewing. Thanks so much for chiming in, getting your questions in. And that is going to do it for the show, unless you wanted to add anything else, Chris.
No, I will have to tell you someday before the end of the season about the night I interviewed Lou Lamoriello on a Broadway stage.
I would love to hear about that. Let's do that. But for now, you have something else to say?
No.
Oh, well, then for now, we're going to wrap this up. So, Ed, hit the music, pal. I want to thank you all so much for tuning in to twitch.tv/HockeyNightNY, and of course later on your favorite podcast providers. A huge thanks to Sara Civian over at Bleacher Report and the Too Many Men podcast, and of course a huge thanks to our wonderful sponsors, starting with Blue Line Deli and Bagels, located at 719 West Jericho Turnpike in Huntington, 217 Carlton Avenue in East Islip, and of course UBS Arena at Belmont. A huge thanks to Lost Farmer Brewing Company, located at 63A 2nd Street in Mineola. Chris, where can we find you on social media?
At Chris Botta NHL.
You can find myself at Shoney Hockey. You can follow Hockey Night New York at Hockey Night NY on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And of course, folks, if you enjoy what we're doing here, please rate, review, subscribe, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on your favorite pod provider. Let us know. Spread the word. Really appreciate all that. So, for Chris Botta, for Ed and Jay behind the glass over there, and for myself, Sean Cuthbert, we've been Hockey Night in New York. We will see you next time.